Welcome YouTube, welcome to Sin City Living, a channel made by full-time Vegas dealers devoted to everything Vegas related. Please hit the like and subscribe buttons. My name is Jason.
I'm Louis.
And for today's episode of Crossfire, we're going to answer a couple questions that we have received and just talk about some general things. So the first question that I want to answer, I'm not going to answer. He will. And we received a question on my direct lay video on whether or not people can do lays on crapless craps. Louis?
So when I dealt crapless craps, there is no don't pass, right? You don't crap out. Obviously, it's crapless. You mark a point, or you mark a horn number, a crap number, or whatever. And we did have a tiny little area in the back for direct lays. And the lays work the same. It's you got to pay, the vig up front. You have to bet X amount to win X amount. So the odds on the 2 and the 12 were 6 to 1. Flip them around, it's 1 to 6. So and then on the 3 and the 11, I believe they were 3 to 1. So people would come in, and if the minimum was 10. They would lay $61, right, to win $10. I don't know why people would do that, but it's the ultimate flea move in my opinion.
That's on the 2 and 12, right?
That's on the 2 and 12, right.
Okay.
You could also get people that would lay 31 to win 10. Again, not very, I don't know. I personally, I wasn't a fan of it. I didn't see the reason to bet it. I mean, the payouts were just so awful. So.
Well, and the thing to remember with the direct lays, like we covered, is that it's true odds. It doesn't favor you. It doesn't favor the house. I mean, the odds are 6 to 1, so you're going to win 6 times and you're going to lose once.
Right.
So you're going to even out. You lose the vig, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree. Betting that much to win that little
right.
is painful. I mean, I get it. It's the same odds either way, but it's just painful to me. Another question we received is, how do the ratings work? How do ratings in casinos work? And there's a couple of answers to this one. Depending on the casinos, a lot of casinos now, it's pretty much all automated. The computer system will deal with everything in regards to comps. So you put your player's card into your slot, it tracks your average bet, how much you're betting.
Right.
You buy in at a blackjack table, you give the card, they put in what your average bet is, and it tracks your play from there, and the computer will decide based on how much you've played on how much you get in comp dollars and free play and stuff like that. The computer decides it all. Some casinos are a little more old school where the suits will decide whether or not you can get a comp. You'll go talk to them, they'll look at your play, and then they'll say, okay, we'll give you a comp to the buffet for 1 person or 2 people or whatever it may be, or you can get some cigarettes.
Right.
I've seen some really funny things. A lady that used to buy in for $20 at a $3 table at one casino I worked at, and then she would ask for cigarettes. And the suits just laughed at her, and finally one of the suits told her, well, you need to have an average bet of $20 for 3 hours. And we'll get you a pack of cigarettes. She had an average bet of $3 for 15 minutes. So she was just trying to scam it. Some people will do that with drinks too. That's actually what the term flea really means. Now, what confuses some people, what people don't understand, is that your rating is not based on how much you buy in for.
Right.
A lot of people do what's called a false drop, where they come in, they give us their card, they buy in for $2,000. And
put 1,000 of it away.
They end up coloring up 1,900 because they only played a $5 average bet.
Right.
What they don't understand is they weren't rated for $2,000 in play. Right. They were rated for $5 average bet for an hour. So they were rated the exact same as that guy that bought in for $30 and played a $5 average bet for an entire hour. Exactly. Your rating is based off of your play, not what you buy in for. You're not going to buy in for $3,000 and expect to get comp for a free room or a buffet when you only put $5 on the pass line or a $5 bet on blackjack. It just doesn't work that way. I actually have a player that does that. He comes up and he buys in for $4,000. He'll always ask for $2,000 or $3,000 in black, and he never plays a single black. He then has an average bet of about $30. He colors up all this black, or he stuffs it in his pocket and walks away. He's even specifically said, make sure you put me in for 4,000 when he hands us his card, and we just shrug and say, oh, absolutely, we'll put you in for 50,000. We don't care, because your average bet is what matters. Another thing to keep in mind too is it is going to depend quite a bit on your average bet, but a little bit on your win-loss as well. If you're a $10 player and the computer shows that over the last 6 months or over the last month you've lost $4,000, and you ask, hey, can I get a comp to the cafe? They're going to look at it and go, yeah, absolutely, here you go. If you're a $10 player and you buy in for $200 and you color up $5,000 because you hit an awesome streak, and you ask, can I get a comp to the buffet? The floors are going to look at that and go, you just won $5,000. Pay your own damn buffet.
Right, exactly.
But it depends. If your average bet is, say, $5,000, even if you win $80,000, they're probably going to give you a comp. Almost definitely a free room, because they're going to want you to stay there and give that $50,000 back.
Right.
But your rating is entirely based on your average bet, not what you bought in for.
Let me chime in a little bit on that as well. You can also get player ratings on just going out and eating at a restaurant and giving them your player card with a good pay. Dude, you can get points for that as well at a lot of casinos. And of course, you have slot play, and you have sports betting. You can get rated for all kinds of things. You can get rated at some places. You go to a gift shop, you give them your player's card. You can get rated for going to the gift shop and getting a drink or getting whatever. There's a lot of different ways you can get rated on that player's card. But in terms of table games, then we rate you based off of your how much you play for how long, win-loss, etc., stuff like that. One thing I will get into is odds on a craps game.
Yes.
A lot of people think that there is a house advantage to odds. There is zero house advantage to odds. It all comes down to the combinations of the dice, the mathematics behind it, the probability, etc. And for that reason, you're not going to get rated on your odds. You'll get rated on your flat bet, on your pass line bet, your come bet, your place bets, your center action, all that good stuff. But you're not going to get rated on your odds or your lays.
Absolutely.
Because there's zero house advantage.
Yeah. You have no advantage. The house has no advantage. I know a floor that calls odds and lays a break-even bet or a zero-sum bet, because over the course of time, as the odds smooth out and the math smooths out on it, it is a zero-sum bet. Neither the player nor the house are going to win money off of that bet. And sure, sometimes you have a floor that may be new to the game with dice. Maybe they came over from the card side. They don't really understand the math all that well, and they may rate the player based on their odds or lays.
Right.
But an experienced floor is not going to rate the player on those odds, because in reality, it's basically, as far as the ratings go, as far as the house is concerned, it's an invisible bet, basically, because over the course of time, nobody wins or loses. So if you come up and you put down $5 on the pass line and you're at a 10 times odds casino, you put $5 on the pass line and $50 in odds back behind your bet, you're more than likely going to be rated for a $5 average bet.
Right.
If you come up and you put, this is something he was talking about earlier, if you're a do-we-don't player, you come up and you put $5 on the pass line and $5 on the don't pass line, I probably have just left your card open but have not put an average bet down for you, because you don't have an average bet at this point. You're betting kind of competing bets, that you're betting both sides, that there's no way to win, one way in 36 chance of losing, so really your average bet is about 40 cents. Unless
you bet $1.12, then I'd say
right,
on every come on, you probably have $1 average.
Then you're going to have $1 average, absolutely. or if you put some place bets or some center action, at that point, then we're going to start rating you. But if you do a do-we-don't, you're not going to get rated. Fun fact: for those of you that have played the bubble craps, you ever played the bubble craps?
I have.
It's a lot of fun, but what you'll notice at a lot of casinos is they don't take a player's card. Or if there's a slot for the player's card, it's been disabled. The reason for that is, for the ratings, because the computer is not smart enough to catch that competing bet. So what would happen is people would go onto the bubble craps and they'd stuff $200 in there, and they would do a $100 pass and a $100 don't pass, and then they would just sit there and play and play and play and play and play. And sure, every so often they're going to lose $100 because a 12 comes, but it's a 1 in 36 chance, so it's like less than 3% odds. But they were getting rated for $200 average bet like every 30 seconds, basically every time the dice roll. So they were racking up these huge free plays and stuff like that. So once the casinos caught on to that, they disabled the cards. That's why if you go to a Bubble Craps, I have not come to a casino yet and found a Bubble Craps that will take a player's card.
Yeah, I've even the video craps. They have video craps. You know, it's basically Bubble Craps, but there's no bubble. You know, it's on the screen. It's the same thing. There's no slot for a player's card and all that jazz. Funny thing. This is for the people in the industry, whether you're a floor, dual rate, or dealer. Descriptions.
Oh yes, descriptions. Please, if you are a dual rate or a floor, please make sure you put descriptions in for the players.
Put them in.
It's very frustrating to sit down at a table and none of the descriptions match the players, and you have absolutely no idea if that player is actually the player that gave the card or if the original player has left and a new player has come in, until you go around asking, hey, is your name Fred? Is your name George? Is your name Aloysius? Whatever it may be. It's really, 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 really irritating. Obviously, if it's a regular, we may see. I may see a description in there that just says, Louis. That's the description, because we all know Louis because he comes in every single day. So if you're sitting at the box, him. There might be a few dealers, especially newer ones, that may not know who that player is, but that doesn't matter because it's the floor that's sitting box that has to deal with that. But yes, the descriptions and keep in mind too with the ratings on your player's card is that the player's card holds notes. Player's card holds a lot of notes in the system. Every time you get a comp, that's notated in the system. Every time you are overcomped, that's notated in the system. Every time you ask for a comp and don't use it, that is notated in the system. Every time you ask for a comp and then abuse it, that is notated in the system. Everything is notated in the system. So if you are at, say, a blackjack table and you try and pass post a bet and you get caught, and they taught you, maybe they let you keep playing after they warn you, maybe they kick you off the table, but either way, it's now notated in the system that you tried to cheat. So if you're at the dice table and you tend to roll the dice short, it's probably going to be notated in your card, hey, this person is a short thrower, and don't be extremely hard on them. Those are the people that the first time they throw it short, we're jumping down their throat. Most people, I don't say a word until the fourth time you throw it short. First time, don't say anything. Second time, kind of give you a funny look. Third time, might do a little point towards the back wall, like, come on now. Because most people self-correct. Most people, they realize the dice are light, so they don't want to throw it hard and they throw it too soft. That's, most people self-correct. But once somebody has a note saying, hey, this person short throws, first time those dice miss that back wall, hey, shooter, you need to have that back wall or we're going to take the dice away from you. Every single time.
Another note is, a big one is on Baccarat. When people forget to, quote unquote, to pay their commission and they leave a game, that stays on you. So when you come back, you're thinking, you had like a $15 commission left over or whatever that you left the table, and then you come back a week later like, oh, they finally forgot, you give me a player's card. It's going to say on that player's card, you owe them $15 for your charging commission from last time. They're not going to let that go. They are not going to let that go. They'll hold that against you. They will definitely hold that against you for these bot players.
Now here's something kind of in line with the ratings, but also slightly separate. Things get a little bit different once you have a host. If you have a host, now it's not entirely based on your play as far as the comps go. Hosts have a lot more leeway. I have a host at about a dozen different casinos, and there were times where I would go and say, hey, can you give me a comp to this show or something like that. They would bring up my play and say, well, you don't quite have enough comps accrued, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to wipe out the comps you have accrued first, and then I'll go ahead and give you this comp and give you a comp to the buffet. Like, okay, no problem. They'll overcomp me, and I've actually had my host one time tell me, you're pretty overcomped, but he took care of me, and I made it up the next time. Next time I went, I didn't ask for a single comp and just played it fair. So once you have a host, then things get a little bit different. You no longer need your player's card to have X amount of play in order to get discounted rooms, stuff like that. You just call your host directly and do it. But getting a host depends on the property and is going to depend on your play. Again, it does not depend on your buy-in.
Right.
It depends on your play. I got my first host at the first casino I had one at literally on accident. I was just playing slots. I was bored with playing blackjack, went around playing slots, and I hit some crazy streaks. Where I put $40 in, and next thing you know, I've got 400.
Nice.
So I just kept playing, and my $40, I would play for 4 hours on a machine that had a $5 minimum bet. Well, I'm hitting that button, or a $5 maximum bet. I'm hitting that button every 3 seconds.
Yeah, at least.
So I'm getting like $25 bets per minute. So that's $100 a minute, $6,000 an hour for 4 hours. That showed us $24,000 in betting action, when in reality I just put $40 in there. And after about 7 hours of just hitting these crazy streaks on slots where I only played with a couple $100, but I accrued something like 140,000 points on my player's card, because every time you go up a tier you get 2 times points, 3 times points. I'm sitting in a slot one day and I get this. And I'm thinking, did I do something? I turn around and it's a host, and from that point forward, I had a host, and I literally just got lucky. It's just sheer luck. But at that point, I could just call up the host, say, "Hey, I'm coming to Vegas. Can you get me a room?" And there you go, free suite.
Yeah, one thing I'll also get into real quick is don't judge a book by its cover, man. Somebody comes over to the table, they look kind of, they toss you their player's card, you'll see they're in about $10, $15, $20,000, whether it's in slots or whether it's from another game. Don't be so gentle. Like, oh, you see somebody kind of looking a little trashy, and you think, oh, here comes a flea. Here comes a flea with a $5 field bet or something. Like
stained tank top and 3-day-old shorts and flip flops that don't match.
Right. They throw you their player's card. You find out, oh, this person's in quite a bit of money, and
I've had many a time where someone comes up to the table, and in my head I'm going, oh boy, this one looks like a fun one. They throw me the card and say, let me get 10,000. You look and they got a $100,000 line of credit.
Right.
It's like, okay.
Yeah, that happens quite often as well. Yeah, for sure.
So thank you, YouTube. That concludes this episode of Crossfire. Please like and subscribe. Make sure if you have any questions, put them into the comments. We would love to do another episode, or just shoot us an email at sincityliving.lv@gmail.com. Thanks a lot. We'll catch you next time.